Good afternoon, everybody. I want to give a shout out to David and Kyle and Amy and everybody who organized the event. Really well put on. So as Kyle mentioned, I'm going to be talking about LLMs, much more narrow topic than what Marcelo just discussed, and specifically talk about how we can move to making them more relevant and how we interact with them. So here's a list of the challenges I'll discuss, just kind of rapid fire list them off, and then based on some of our R&D at Outerbounds, I'll suggest some ways that we can move forward. So first observation is that we know that LLMs hallucinate. They're just generating the next token based on probability distributions. And here we see an example of this in the vanilla ChatGPT interface, where it's just kind of giving a nonsense answer that's not in Metaflow's documentation or anywhere. One way to deal with hallucinations like this is instruction tuning. So my GIF here is unfortunately not moving. But this changes the shape of the response by continuing to train the model on data shaped like how you want the model to respond. Another way that's common that many of you in this room might be familiar with these days is retrieval-augmented generation, or RAG, where we use a database of information that we consider factual, maybe from an existing knowledge graph, and we put that into the prompt that we give to the LLM. Another challenge that we see is that the LLMs, one reason they do hallucinate is because they don't have access to fresh data, or in ChatGPT's case, it might just not answer you, saying like, oh, my data was only trained to 2021, can't help you. So one way that you can get around this is to do something like a RAG pipeline by giving it actually relevant data in its prompt, and you can update these pipelines by scheduling workflows, triggering them based on events that happen in your production systems. A third challenge is that there's a ton of complexity around the economics of using closed source APIs, building your own models, and making these APIs for internal use cases. So here's just kind of a smattering of various closed and open tools. One way that we've found our customers having success kind of turning this into less of a problem for them is to make reusable workflow components where you can kind of hot swap in a commercial API or an open source API and sort of move forward and not spend so much time on the decision. Another big challenge is just the expense. If you want to make your own models and do things with open source, fine-tuning is super expensive. You need GPUs, often you need many of them, and it's hard to use them. So another sad, non-interactive GIF here of how LoRa works. But two methods actually on this slide to deal with this are quantization and this mathematical technique called low-rank adaptation that you can check out. So here again are the challenges of hallucination, data freshness, closed and open APIs, and then just dealing with the expense of actually bringing this stuff in-house when you want to control more of the supply chain. Some more ways forward suggested on the right. Now, how can you get started with doing this stuff at home? All of the work that we've been doing at Outerbounds is open. We're not, these are not like core to how Outerbounds is interacting with LLMs and with our customers. So I'd suggest you check out this GitHub repository. Our CEO, Ville, and I did a presentation yesterday. That was a workshop, a guided session with a sandbox environment where you can load up all this code and run through examples of everything that's discussed in this talk today. You can also check out some of our blog posts, including how to use Whisper, an API that OpenAI released for transcribing data. So you can transcribe any audio snippets, YouTube videos, so on and so forth. We've also unpacked the fine-tuning paradigm, just kind of like with some thought pieces on like what fine-tuning is and how it relates to the actual training dynamics of LLMs in the first place, and then how to build production-grade workflows around this. We've also went very deep on the application design piece of retrieval-augmented generation. So here we see a real eye chart of like kind of this offline indexing of a bunch of data ourselves, schedule the workflow, and feed it to RAG. And then here's a visualization of the sandbox environment I mentioned that Ville and I used to guide the workshop yesterday. You can go to outerbounds.com/sandbox, sign up today. We have a whole bunch of content that's not only about Gen AI, all your ML ops needs you can check out in the sandbox there. We also have a super active Slack community, so please join, come ask your questions, help out new folks, and feel free to DM me at Eddie on Outerbounds Slack. Last but not least, we're also hosting a happy hour tonight, so folks are going to be around at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. We are going to be at the Roaring Fork by Quarry Lake in Austin. I'm not familiar, but I've heard it's a cool spot, so hope to see you there.